So previous class we discussed about effectiveness NTU method. We discussed the definition of effectiveness. We will revise the same thing again and we will see what is effectiveness NTU method for analysis of heat exchangers. Now we need to analyze two different types of heat exchangers. One is parallel flow, one is counter flow. Both the derivations will be very similar. So what we will do, we will try to cover this parallel flow heat exchanger here during the online sessions. This counter flow heat exchanger will be provided to you in the notes. Since both the derivations are very similar, just go through this particular derivation. If any doubt will be there, you can revert back. Is that fine for all? Or you want me to teach both the topics separately?
No, sir.
Okay. It is entirely derivation. So all I will be doing is I will be narrating the steps over here, how the steps were taken, uh, how we are getting a particular term. So everything will be explained in this particular type. So if you will understand this particular type properly, you can do this counter flow by your own. We will again revise what is effectiveness of a heat exchanger. So effectiveness of a heat exchanger is defined as actual heat transfer rate to the maximum possible heat transfer rate. Now we must not get confused with effectiveness of a fin. Effectiveness of a fin is given by Q with fin divided by Q without fin. Efficiency for a fin is given by Q actual by Q max. These are the definitions which we studied in fins. But when we are talking about effectiveness of a heat exchanger, for determining the performance characteristics of a heat exchanger or for measuring the performance of a heat exchanger, we have only one term which is effectiveness. We don't define efficiency over here. Now this effectiveness is defined as Q actual divided by Q max. It is not at all related with fins. So whenever this question is asked in fifth module, do not bring this Q with fin divided by Q without fin into picture. You must know that effectiveness for a heat exchanger is Q actual divided by Q max. Now we will see what these Q actual and Q max values are. So for this Q actual, we have three different formulae. Q actual can be either given by CH, TH1 minus TH2. It can be given by CC, TC2 minus TC1, or the same can be given by UA multiplied by theta M. I hope this part is clear for all. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yesterday we also saw that in which case we will be getting Q maximum. So I will introduce the sheet again. Uh, we will be getting Q maximum when the temperature drop or temperature rise for the fluids is maximum. So if the hot fluid is entering at a temperature TH1, the minimum temperature which it can achieve will be TC1. If the cold fluid is entering at TC1, the maximum temperature which it can achieve will be TH1. Is this part clear for all or any confusion in this part?
No, sir.
Okay. So the maximum temperature differences which is possible for both the fluids, that is TH1 minus TC1. This is the maximum possible temperature difference. So if we are talking about what is the maximum heat which the hot fluid can throw out or which the hot fluid can provide to the cold fluid, that will be CH TH1 minus TC1. Similarly, if we are talking about what is the maximum heat or what is the maximum rate of heat transfer at which heat will be entering the cold fluid, that will be given by Cc, again maximum possible temperature difference, which is Th1 minus Tc1. Now one of these values will be higher. Either this will be higher or this will be higher. Suppose that first case this value is high and this value is low. So what is the maximum possible rate of heat transfer between them? The higher value or the lower value?
Lower value.
Lower value. This we understood yesterday by the example of 1000 rupees and 800 rupees. We have a provider which can give 1000 rupees We have a borrower which can take only 800 rupees. So maximum transfer between them will be equal to 800 only. Now, this minimum value will depend upon this CH value or CC value. Whatever is minimum among these two, that is going to give us the maximum rate of heat transfer. So we can also say that this Q max value will be equal to C minimum, C minimum multiplied by maximum temperature difference multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. Any doubt in this part? Anyone? Is this
No,
part
sir.
okay? Clear or not clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay, fine. So we will move to our next slide and we will see what is the definition for effectiveness again. So here we have two different cases. Case one is CH is the lower value. Case two, CC is the lower value. If CH is the lower value, we can say that CH is equal to C minimum and CC is equal to C maximum. Now we know that this Qmax value is equal to C minimum multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. Do we know this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the relation for Qmax. If I'm talking about the first case, for the first case, what is the C minimum value? It is equal to CH. If C minimum is equal to CH, we can say that maximum rate of heat transfer will be equal to CH TH1 minus TC1. Okay, similarly for the second case we are getting CC is the minimum value. So we are writing C min is equal to CC, C max is equal to CH, and in this case again this Q max value is equal to C min multiplied by TH1 minus TC1. C min value is equal to CC, so we get Q max is equal to CC TH1 minus TC1. We will try to find out effectiveness for both the cases. So here effectiveness is equal to Q actual by Q max. For Q actual value, you can use whatever relation you want. If you want, you can use CH TH1 minus TH2, or you can also use CC TC2 minus TC1. It depends upon you which relation you want to use. But here what we have done, we want to cancel out the CS term. In Q max, we are getting CS terms. So in order to cancel out CS term, we are sticking to the first definition. We are taking Q actual is equal to CH TH1 minus TH2. In this case, this epsilon value, this effectiveness value will be equal to TH1 minus TH2 divided by TH1 minus TC1. The CS terms will get cancelled out. Is this part clear for all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Same relation could also be written as CC divided by CH multiplied by TH1 minus TH2 divided by TH1 minus TC1. This is also correct. This relation is also going to give you the same value of effectiveness because this is also Q actual by Q max for the same case. Sorry, it will be CC TC2 minus TC1. Just one mistake.
Yes, sir.
So CC TC2 minus TC1 divided by CH TH1 minus TC1. This also gives you the same value of effectiveness because again this is the relation for Q actual by Q max. Any doubt in this part?
No, sir.
Okay. Similarly, for the second case, this effectiveness is equal to Q actual by Q max. For Q max relation, we were getting CC term. So in order to cancel out the CC term, for Q actual relation, we are taking CC, TC2 minus TC1. CC and CC will get cancelled out and we are left with TC2 minus TC1 divided by TH1 minus TC1. So divided by TH1 minus TC1. Any doubt in this part now? Anyone, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Fine.
No, sir.
Now, this was the definition of effectiveness. We will see what NTU is. Now, For NTU, we will only talk about the mathematical relation. What is the physical significance of NTU? This we will not discuss right now. This we might discuss later. So we will see what NTU is. NTU is called as number of transfer units. Now, NTU is given by UA divided by Cmin. U is overall heat transfer coefficient, A is area, and Cmin is the lower value among CH and CC. If CH is less than CC, if CH is greater than CC, then the Cmin value will be equal to CC. If CC is greater than CH, then Cmin value will be equal to CH. Is this part clear? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Yes, sir.
Now, what this NTU gives us, NTU is a measure of size of the heat exchanger. It stands for number of transfer units, and it is a measure of size of heat exchanger. Also, it is a measure of effectiveness of the heat exchanger. This we will see later. Now, the larger is the value of NTU. Just focus on this statement. The larger the value of NTU, the closer the heat exchanger approaches its thermodynamic limit. What does the statement mean? Say that we have a counter flow heat exchanger. For the counter flow heat exchanger, from this side, a hot fluid is entering at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. From the other side, a cold fluid is entering at this particular point. The inlet temperature for the cold fluid, say that is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. It is entering somewhere over here, and this temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. Here it comes out at a temperature of say around 70, and this one comes out here at a temperature of say around 40 degrees Celsius. Is it possible to have a heat exchanger like this, a counter flow heat exchanger like this? Yes, no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Second case, what we are going to do, we are going to draw one more heat exchanger of a larger size. So this is the second heat exchanger for me. For the second heat exchanger, hot water is entering from the same side. So it is entering at 100 degrees Celsius. It will be moving in this direction. Now, this was the size of the previous heat exchanger. The current size is this much longer. Now, cold water will be entering at 20 degrees Celsius over here. So it is entering at 20 degrees Celsius from this side. This temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. This cold water will be flowing in this direction, and the hot water will be flowing in this direction. Now, in the previous case, when the size of heat exchanger was lower, this drop in temperature for the hot water, that was from 100 to 40 degrees Celsius. When we are increasing the size of the heat exchanger, tell me this value will be greater than 40 or lower than 40. The end temperature which we will be getting over here, that will be less than 40 or more than 40.
Less than 40. Less than
Less than 40.
40.
Because since we are increasing the size of heat exchanger, more heat can be given to the cold fluid. Heat exchange rate is going to increase because Q is also given by UA multiplied by theta m. So if we are increasing the area value, definitely the rate of heat transfer is going to increase. If rate of heat transfer is increasing, this temperature difference is also going to increase. So the end temperature will be lower than 40 degrees Celsius. Say it is around 30 degrees Celsius on this side, or it can be 25 degrees Celsius on this side. Similarly, over here, what we are going to get, this temperature will be greater than 70, say it is around 80 degrees Celsius. Is it possible to have this case? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if we will keep on increasing the size of heat exchangers, what is going to happen? The temperature difference between these 2 points, that is going to decrease continuously. See, here the temperature difference was equal to 20. In this case, the temperature difference is 10. A point will come if we are taking a heat exchanger of infinite length. In that case, the end temperature of the hot fluid will be equal to inlet temperature of the cold fluid. Can we get such a condition if we are using
Yes, sir.
infinite length heat exchanger? Are you people
Yeah.
getting that part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that condition is called as thermodynamic limit. because the limit of this hot water temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. It cannot go below 20 degrees Celsius. So limit for hot fluid is 20 degrees Celsius and limit for the cold fluid, that is 100 degrees Celsius. The temperature of the cold fluid cannot go beyond 100 degrees Celsius. This part is also clear to everyone? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, why is it 20 degrees Celsius for the first hot fluid, sir?
Same thing, the same concept which we used over here. The maximum possible temperature difference for hot fluid, that is TH1 minus TC1. The temperature cannot go beyond the lowest temperature, because once it reaches equal to the lowest temperature, the heat transfer process is going to cease. I'll consider the case.
Okay, sir.
See, suppose the case is like this. This length is infinite. Here this temperature is 100. This temperature is 20. This temperature is say around 95. This is a case which we are having. Now once this temperature reaches equal to 20, will there be any heat transfer after that?
No, sir. No, sir.
So even
Understood.
if you are increasing the size of the heat exchanger, the curve will go like this. It will be at a constant temperature. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So this 20 degrees Celsius is the thermodynamic limit for this hot fluid, and 100 degrees Celsius will be the thermodynamic limit for the cold fluid. Now, the larger is the value of NTU, the closer the heat exchanger approaches its thermodynamic limit. It means if we have a large value of NTU, the outlet temperature of the hot fluid will be closer to 20 degrees Celsius. It can be 23, 24, 25. If NTU value is large, the outlet temperature of the cold fluid will be closer to 100 degrees Celsius. It can be 98, 96, 95. Here we saw that if we are increasing the size of the heat exchanger, the heat exchanger was approaching its thermodynamic limit. And what is the thermodynamic limit? For this 100, the thermodynamic limit is 20. It cannot go below 20 degrees Celsius. For the cold fluid, for this 20 degrees Celsius, on this side the limit is around 100 degrees Celsius. So if we are using a large value of NTU, what is going to happen? The heat exchanger will be approaching its thermodynamic limit. It means outlet temperature of the hot fluid will be around 20. So it can be 23, 24 like this. It will be in the vicinity of 20. So 23 degrees Celsius, 24 degrees Celsius, or maybe 25 degrees Celsius. This outlet temperature will be closer to 20. Similarly, this cold fluid temperature, the outlet temperature for the cold fluid, it should be around 100. So it can be 95, 96, 98, something like that. This will be for a large value of NTU. Is this part clear? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So since a large value of NTU is making the heat exchanger approach its thermodynamic limit, it means when we are increasing the value of NTU, we might also be increasing the size of the heat exchanger, because if we will be increasing the size of the heat exchanger, the heat exchanger will be approaching its thermodynamic limit. Is this part clear now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Also in the NTU definition, you can see that NTU is equal to UA by Cmin. So if we will be increasing the area value, the NTU term is also going to increase. Any doubt in this part now? Yes,
No,
no?
sir.
Okay. So from this topic, effectiveness and NTU, what you need to know, what is effectiveness for a heat exchanger? So you need to remember the definition, and you need to remember this relation, that effectiveness is equal to Q actual by Q max. Do not get confused with FINS. This is what most people do. In the exams, they will be writing definition of effectiveness of FINS in heat exchanger. And for FINS, they will be writing the definition of heat exchanger. Do not do that. For NTU, again, you need to remember this relation, that NTU is equal to UA by Cmin. You need to remember this formula. This formula will be given in the data handbook also, that we will see later. And you need to remember what is the physical significance of NTU. So physical significance is it is going to tell you about the size of the heat exchanger, and also if the value of NTU is large, you can comment on the exit temperatures. You can comment whether the exit temperatures are closer to the thermodynamic limit or not. Now we will talk about effectiveness for a parallel flow heat exchanger. So this is from where we are going to start our analysis. We are going to start the analysis for parallel flow heat exchanger, and this analysis will be done using effectiveness NTU method. We will see why are we going to call it as effectiveness NTU method. Should we start? Yes, no?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, this derivation also is similar to the LMTD derivation. The initial 10 or 15 steps are the same what we have done for LMTD derivation. So again, it will be a revision for LMTD derivation. After some steps, we are going to deviate from that particular procedure, and we will see why are we going to deviate and how are we going to deviate. So we have a parallel flow heat exchanger. Both the fluids are flowing in the same direction. We have a hot fluid which is flowing from left to right, a cold fluid which is flowing from left to right. Inlet temperature of hot fluid TH1, outlet temperature TH2, inlet for cold TC1, outlet for cold TC2. For analysis, we are considering one segment in between the heat exchanger, one element in between the heat exchanger, the area for that particular element, that is dA. For that element, the temperature drop for the hot fluid is equal to dTH. The temperature rise for the cold fluid for that element, that is equal to dTC. At the element, the temperature of the hot fluid is taken as TH, temperature of the cold fluid is taken as TC, and temperature difference between both the fluids is given by TH minus TC, which is also written as theta. These parts are clear. Same things we had done for the previous derivations as well. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. On this side, the temperature difference is theta1, and theta1 is equal to TH1 minus TC1. On the other side, we have theta2. Theta2 is TH2 minus TC2. We are going to write the same expressions what we wrote for LMTD. First, the total rate of heat transfer between the fluids. So we have three different formulae for it. First is MHCH TH1 minus TH2. So it is heat loss by the hot fluid, heat gained by the cold fluid, and rate of heat convection. So the formulae are CH TH1 minus TH2, CC TC2 minus TC1, and UA theta M. No doubt till this part?
No, sir.
Okay. We are going to see what is the small rate of heat transfer for this particular element. So that we have taken as dq. So this dq can be given by heat loss by the hot fluid. For the hot fluid, the temperature drop is equal to dTH. So we can say that heat transfer value will be equal to CH dTH. Now if we will see the hot fluid, so in the direction of analysis, in the positive direction, the temperature for the hot fluid is increasing or decreasing? In the positive direction of analysis, the temperature for the hot fluid, that is rising up or that is going down? This is the question.
Going down.
It is going down. If it is going down, we know that dTH value will be negative because the temperature is decreasing. So dTH will be negative. To make the term positive, we have introduced one negative sign. So dQ is equal to minus CH dTH. Heat gained by the cold fluid, that will be given by Cc multiplied by temperature change for the cold fluid. Temperature change for the cold fluid is equal to dTc. So dQ is given by Cc multiplied by dTc. Here if you will see, temperature for the cold fluid is rising up. So this dTc value will be positive. This value was negative. So we are writing plus Cc dTc. This whole thing is equal to rate of heat convection. So for the element which we have considered, the area of the heat exchanger is given by dA, and the temperature difference for that particular area, we are assuming that it remains constant, and that value is Th minus Tc, which we are writing as theta. So this term could also be written as UdA multiplied by theta. Is this part clear to all? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we doing anything different from the previous derivation, or are we doing the same thing till now? Do you
Same
people?
thing, sir.
Okay.
Almost the same.
Not almost, it is exactly the same. All the same steps were there for the previous derivation. I have simply copied the slides from there and I pasted it over here. Till now there is no change. The entire slide is same. We are going to find the value of DTH. So for DTH we are going to use this relation. We can see that DTH is equal to minus DQ divided by CH. We are substituting the value of DQ and DQ was equal to UdA theta. So DTH value becomes minus UdA theta divided by CH. Similarly, find the value of DTC and DTC will be equal to plus UdA theta divided by CC. Once we find the values of DTH and DTC, we subtract both of them and we try to find out the value of DTH minus DTC. So DTH minus DTC will be equal to first term minus second term, which is minus UdA theta divided by CH minus of plus UdA theta divided by CC. From these two terms, we can take minus UdA theta common. So minus UdA theta has been taken outside. Inside the bracket, we have 1 by CH plus 1 by CC. On the other side, we were getting DTH minus DTC. The term TH minus TC we had taken as theta. So DTH minus DTC value will be equal to d theta. So we get d theta is equal to minus UdA theta whole multiplied by 1 by CH plus 1 by CC. Any doubt till this part? Anyone, any doubt till this part?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we are going to solve this differential equation. So same steps what we used for the previous derivation. So we get d theta by theta is equal to minus u dA 1 by ch plus 1 by cc. Integrate both the sides. If we will integrate both the sides, here limit for theta will be from theta 1 to theta 2. U is constant term, 1 by ch, 1 by cc is constant term. So it is taken outside the integral. And limit for area, that is from 0 to capital A. So again, same step what we did for the previous derivation. Integration gives us ln theta 2 by theta 1 is equal to minus UA 1 by CH plus 1 by CC. Any doubt till this part now? Yes, no?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in the previous derivation, what we had done, we had substituted the value of 1 by CH and 1 by CC, if you remember that. Yes or no? Did we substitute the value of 1 by CH and 1 by CC?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but in this case, we are not going to do that. And I will tell you the logic behind that. Okay, so see what we are going to do in the next step. So from here, we are deviating our path from the previous derivation. Theta 2 value is equal to TH2 minus TC2. Theta 1 value is TH1 minus TC1. I am substituting the same thing over here. Here we had this ln part. So we are taking exponential on both the sides. So this ln is gone and we are left over with theta 2 by theta 1, which is written as TH2 minus TC2 by TH1 minus TC1. On the other side, we will have exponential of this particular term. So it is exponential of the same term. Now in this term, what we are doing, we are multiplying and dividing by CH. So UA divided by CH, whole thing multiplied by CH. So we can multiply both the terms by CH. Here also CH and here also CH. So what are we left with? UA divided by CH. Can you see this part? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next term will be 1. So CH by CH is 1 plus CH by CC. We are getting this particular expression. Any doubt in this part now? Any doubt in this step?
No, sir.
Fine. Now, see, the logic behind this substitution would be whenever we are designing a heat exchanger, we will be knowing that what is the inlet temperature of the fluids. We will be knowing the TH1 value, and we will be knowing that what is TC1 value. These values will be known. This is the heat exchanger. Both the fluids are entering the heat exchanger. Our aim is to design a heat exchanger to get a particular heat exchange rate. So since you are designing the heat exchanger for the first time, the outlet temperature will totally depend upon the size of the heat exchanger. The outlet temperatures for both the fluids will not be known. We won't be knowing the TS2 value also, and we will not be knowing the TC2 value also. Is this concept clear to all? Is this part clear to all? Say yes or no so that I can explain
Yes,
that
sir.
again, or I can move. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So since we are designing the heat exchanger for the first time, only the inlet temperatures will be known and the outlet temperatures will not be known. So since the outlet temperatures are not known, we are going to substitute the values of those outlet temperatures. So our aim is to remove this TS2 and TC2 from the expression. In order to remove this TS2 and TC2, we will be using the relations for effectiveness. Now here if you will see, we have written effectiveness is equal to Q actual by Q max. We know that effectiveness is equal to Q actual by Q max. Q max, what is the formula for Q max? It is given by C minimum multiplied by maximum temperature difference. And what is the maximum temperature difference value?
TH1 TC1.
TH1 minus TC1. And this actual rate of heat transfer, we have three formulae. So we can use any one of those. So I'm using two formulae of Q actual. The first formula is CH TH1 minus TH2. The second formula is TC TC2 minus TC1. The denominator is Q max value, and this Q max value remains the same. It is C min TH1 minus TC1. Here also it is C min TH1 minus TC1. So I have written two different formulae for effectiveness. First one in terms of hot fluid, second one in terms of cold fluid. If you will see in the first relation, we are getting this TS2 value. In the second relation, we are getting TC2 value. So what we can do, we can consider both the equations one by one. First consider this particular equation, and from this equation try to find out the value of TS2. So over there what we can write that TH1 minus TS2 is equal to epsilon multiplied by T min multiplied by TH1 minus TC1 divided by CH. Can we rewrite the expression like this? What I am doing, I am taking the denominator on this side and I am taking the CH value to the denominator. Can we write like this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from here, if I want to find out the value of TS2, take this TS2 on this side and bring this term on the left hand side. So we will be getting that this TS2 value will be getting that TS2 value is equal to TH1 minus epsilon multiplied by C min TH1 minus TC1 divided by CH. This whole term comes on this side. So any doubt in this relation?
No, sir.
Okay. Similarly, from the second relation, epsilon is equal to Cc Tc2 minus Tc1. What we can do, we can transport this C min on this side. We can transport this Cc to the denominator, and this Tc2 value will be equal to Tc1 plus epsilon C min Th1 minus Tc1 divided by Cc. Is this part clear, or should I write it step by step?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from that expression, try to find out the value of Tc2. Once you get the values of Ts2 and Tc2, we need to substitute the same in this particular expression. So we will see what happens when we substitute these values. Now, if you will see the expression, we have got exponential of this thing. Leave that as it is. No change in that part. Here we have Ts2 minus Tc2 on the numerator side, and on the denominator side we have Th1 minus Tc1. So I'm taking the denominator separately. I'm writing that as 1 by Th1 minus Tc1. Is this part clear? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if we are writing the denominator separately, this has to be multiplied with the term Ts2 minus Tc2. So whatever we are getting over here, this will be Ts2 minus Tc2. We will see how we are getting that particular term. So basically we have to find Ts2 minus Tc2. We have to subtract these two equations. So subtract here, here also put a negative sign. If you will subtract, this term will be Ts2 minus Tc2, which will be equal to Th1 minus Tc1. Can we say that the first term is Th1 minus Tc1? Yes, no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here the first term is Th1 minus Tc1 minus of, now I need to subtract these terms also. So here we have a negative sign. Here also we have a negative sign. What we can do, we can take the negative sign common. We have taken the negative sign common. The term epsilon C min Th1 minus Tc1, epsilon C min Th1 minus Tc1 is common in both the terms. So we have taken that also outside. Epsilon C min Th1 minus Tc1. Inside the bracket what we have, 1 by Ch with a positive sign because minus was already taken outside, and 1 by Cc with a positive sign. So inside the bracket we are writing 1 by Ch plus 1 by Cc. Any doubt in this part now?
No, sir.
Fine. Now what we can do, if you will see, here we have Th1 minus Tc1. Here also we have Th1 minus Tc1. This Th1 minus Tc1 is common in both the terms. So we can take it outside, and the terms Th1 minus Tc1 will get cancelled out. Are you getting this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we can rewrite the expression. This becomes 1. If you will cancel out, here we are going to get 1. So 1 minus epsilon C min 1 by Ch plus 1 by Cc. 1 by Ch plus 1 by Cc. That is equal to exponential of whatever we had on the other side. So it is equal to exponential minus Ua by Ch 1 plus Ch by Cc. We want to find out the value of effectiveness. So see what we are going to do. For finding the value of effectiveness, bring this entire term on the other side. So we are going to get 1 minus the exponential term. I am simply writing exponential of dot dot dot. 1 minus exponential term is equal to epsilon C min multiplied by 1 by Ch plus 1 by Cc. Can we rewrite the expression like this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now if we want to find out the value of epsilon, we can simply transport this C min to the other hand side, and we will be getting 1 minus exponential of dot 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 divided by C min 1 plus Ch, C min multiplied by 1 by Ch plus 1 by Cc. Is this part clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the logic of doing this thing? See, in the effectiveness relation, can you see any temperature term?
No, sir.
Okay. In the effectiveness relation, we don't have any temperature term. What are the terms which we have? We have capital U. Capital U is overall heat transfer coefficient. It depends on the fluids which we are using. It depends on the uh, nature of heat exchanger material which we are using, whether the pipe is made up of copper or it is made up of steel. So it is going to depend on the material, this U value. It depends upon the size of the pipes and all. It also depends upon the nature of the heat exchanger, whether it is shell and tube heat exchanger or it is concentric tube heat exchanger. Area value is the area which is available for heat transfer. So these values will be known to us because what fluid is entering the heat exchanger or what material we are using, this data we have to decide. The fluids which are entering the heat exchanger will be a constraint. This will be given to you. The material you only have to decide because you are designing the heat exchanger. So this capital U value can be determined by you. It won't be any unknown data. Area, since you are designing the heat exchanger, you can control what area you want to use. Again, capital CH, it is the product of mass flow rate and specific heat for the hot fluid. So what is the flow condition you are knowing, and which fluid is entering the heat exchanger, that is also known. So capital CH value and capital CC value will be known to you. Since capital CH and capital CC will be known, this C minimum value will also be known. So whenever you go to design a heat exchanger, what you can find out that for a particular heat exchanger, what will be effectiveness of the heat exchanger. This can be determined in advance. Can we do that? Yes or no? Are you getting this part? Can we design this? Can we find the effectiveness without knowing the temperature values? Just
Yes, sir.
okay. So effectiveness is equal to this much. This effectiveness can be determined when we are going to design the heat exchanger. Now, once we find the effectiveness, we can get to know that for a particular inlet temperature, for a particular value of TH1 minus TH1 and TC1, what will be the outlet temperature? Here we can find out what will be TS2 value. Here we can find out what will be TC2 value. Are you getting this part? Yes or no?
Yes,
Is
sir.
this okay? So this is the application of this effectiveness NTU method. This method will be more common because in most of the cases we don't know the exit temperatures for both the fluids. So in order to determine the exit temperatures, what we have to do, we have to calculate the effectiveness of the heat exchanger which we have designed. Find out the effectiveness, put it back in the general formula for effectiveness or the basic formula of effectiveness. From here we can get the value of TS2 and we can find the value of TC2 as well. Now, if we will recall the LMTD method, for LMTD method all the temperature values must be known. TH1, TS2, TC1 and TC2. These values must be known. If these values are not known, you cannot find out the rate of heat transfer because theta m will not be known in this case. But for this particular case, for effectiveness case, if the inlet temperatures are given, if TH1 and TC1 values are given, and all the data required here for design purpose are given, then what you can do, you can find out the effectiveness first. Later, you can find out the outlet temperatures. Once you have the outlet temperature, you have all the four temperatures. Now you can find the rate of heat transfer by any method. Any doubt in this part? Yes, no? Should we move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now, this is the expression for effectiveness which we are getting. We will try to generalize the expression a bit because here we are getting C min term, here we are getting CH, here we are getting CC. We don't know what the C minimum term will be equal to, whether it is CH or it is CC. So we will write a general formula for the same. Now we will see how to achieve the general formula. So I have rewritten the same equation on the next slide. This is the same relation. Epsilon is equal to 1 minus the exponential term divided by C min. 1 by CH plus 1 by CC. We can have two different possibilities. The first possibility is CC value will be greater. The second possibility is CH value will be greater. So for the first possibility, what we are doing, we are taking Cmin value is equal to CH, because here CH is the minimum value. Cmax value will be equal to CC. Any doubt in this part?
No, sir.
Okay. When we are doing this, see what we are going to get in this particular relation, or how the relation is going to change. We will be getting 1 minus UA divided by CH, and CH is equal to what? Cmin or Cmax for this case? Cmin. So we are substituting CH is equal to Cmin. We get 1 minus exponential of minus UA by Cmin whole multiplied by 1 plus CH by CC. Now CH is Cmin and CC is Cmax. So we are writing 1 minus exponential minus UA by Cmin multiplied by 1 plus Cmin by Cmax whole divided by, now see what we have over here. We have Cmin multiplied by 1 by CH, and CH value is equal to what? Again, Cmin or Cmax. First, what is the CH value? Cmin or Cmax?
Cmin, sir.
Okay, so it is Cmin plus 1 by Cmax, because Cc value is Cmax. So what we have done, we have multiplied the Cmin to both the terms, and what we get is Cmin and Cmin get cancelled out. Here we will be getting 1, and the next term is going to become Cmin by Cmax. So we have 1 plus Cmin by Cmax. Mute the call. Any doubt in this relation now? Any doubt in the relation which we are getting over here? This is the relation for the first case. We get epsilon is equal to 1 minus exponential. 1 minus exponential minus UA by Cmin. 1 plus Cmin by Cmax whole divided by 1 plus Cmin by Cmax. We will see the second case. For the second case, what we have the CH value, that is the greater value. So Cmin is equal to Cc, Cmax is equal to Ch. Substitute the values in this particular relation. So we get 1 minus exponential minus UA divided by, here what we have CH. CH is written as Cmax whole multiplied by 1 plus CH by Cc. So it becomes Cmax by Cmin. For the denominator, what we have Cmin multiplied by 1 by CH is Cmax. So 1 by Cmax plus 1 by Cmin. Again, Cmin and Cmin will get cancelled out, and here we will be getting Cmin by Cmax. So denominator remains the same. The denominator value is 1 plus Cmin by Cmax. We are going to rearrange the numerator a bit, and we will see what we can get. So for this exponential term, what we have, you have minus UA by Cmax. I will just rewrite that again. We have UA divided by Cmax multiplied by 1 plus Cmin by Cmax. Sorry, multiplied by 1 plus Cmax divided by Cmin. Is it what we are getting, or I have done some mistake? Whatever I have written, is that correct? Are we getting the same thing over here in the exponential term?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now for this term, for the term with the exponential, what we are going to do, we are going to multiply and divide it by Cmin. So multiply by Cmin and divide by Cmin. The division I am going to do over here. So I am going to put this Cmin to the denominator of UA. Can we write like this? Yes or no? Can I write like this?
Sir,
Yes,
once
sir.
again, can you repeat it, sir?
Okay, I'll just use the eraser and I'll do that. So this is the expression which we are getting with the exponential. What we are going to do, we are going to multiply and divide the relation by C min. So multiply it by C min and divide the same by P min. Can we write like this? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we will rearrange the equation a bit. I am writing UA. This UA portion is covered. This portion is covered. Divided by this C min I am writing to the, I am taking it to the denominator of UA. So here I can write UA divided by C min multiplied by this C max I am taking it inside the bracket. This C min also I am taking it inside the bracket. So this becomes, we have 1 divided by C max plus C max divided by C min was already there, and this C max also came inside the bracket on the denominator side. So this C max is also covered. We are left with the C min term. Take this C min term also inside. So what we get? 1 multiplied by C min. Here also C max multiplied by C min. Can we write like this? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Now see how the
Yeah.
terms are going to change. Here we have UA by C min. This term is C min by C max. It remains as it is. For this term, we can cancel out C max and we can cancel out C min. And what are we left with over here? 1. So the term again becomes UA divided by C min multiplied by 1 plus C min by C max. So 1 plus C min by C max. The denominator remains as it is. 1 plus C min by C max. Any doubt in the step? Any doubt in the rearrangement?
No, sir.
Okay. When we are doing this much, see what we are getting. For both the cases, the final expression is same. For both the cases, the effectiveness value is same. Effectiveness value is 1 minus exponential minus UA by C min minus UA by C min 1 plus C min by C max 1 plus C min by C max whole divided by 1 plus C min by C max whole divided by 1 plus C min by C max. So instead of writing two different formulae for two different cases, we can consider that this is the general formula of effectiveness for parallel flow heat exchanger. Can we say like that? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have rewritten the same relation over here. The terms are 1 minus exponential UA by C min. Now, if you will recall the definition of NTU, NTU was equal to what? If you will go back to the relation of NTU, NTU was given as what? Was
UA by C min.
okay. So here also we are getting the term UA by C min. We can rewrite that as NTU. So the equation becomes 1 minus exponential minus NTU, and here the term is 1 plus C min by C max whole divided by 1 plus C min by C max. Since the term C min by C max is repeating itself, instead of writing it again and again, we give it a name. So it is the ratio of minimum heat capacity to maximum heat capacity, and the ratio is called as capacity ratio. So this R value is taken as C min divided by C max, C min by C max, and the same thing has been substituted in the relation over here, and we can write that this effectiveness value is equal to 1 minus exponential minus NTU 1 plus C min by C max, and C min by C max value is nothing but capacity ratio, which is given by capital R. Here also for the denominator side, we have 1 plus C min by C max which is given by capital R. Any doubt in the relation? Yes, no?
No, sir.
Okay. In some books, you will find that this capacity ratio term, the R term, is taken as capital C. So in some books, you will find R for ratio. In some other books, you will find capital C for capacity ratio. I'll just show you a picture of the data handbook. So for the data handbook, here what we have, this is LMTD for parallel flow heat exchanger, LMTD for counter flow heat exchanger. It is of the form theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2. But they are not giving the values in terms of theta. They are giving you the values in terms of temperature differences. Here also we are getting the same relation, theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2. But theta 1 and theta 2 values for counter flow heat exchangers are different. For our case, we had used TH and TC for the notations of hot fluid and cold fluid. Here they are using capital T and small t for the notations of hot and cold fluid. So these two relations are for LMTD. Uh, to see the relations of effectiveness, we will just move to the next page. So if you will go to the next page of data handbook in heat exchangers, here you can get, we have some relations for effectiveness. They have written over here, these are the effectiveness relations. So the first one is effectiveness relation for a parallel flow heat exchanger. This they are writing as 1 minus exponential minus n. So n is nothing but NTU plus multiplied by 1 plus C. C is nothing but the capacity ratio which we had taken as capital R, whole divided by 1 plus C. So we were also getting the same relation. The same relation has been given in the data handbook as well. So no need to remember the relation. This relation you can get from the data handbook if you are not preparing for competitive exams.